Hello, and welcome to the Fiber Circus. This is episode 31, and it is January the 14th of 2020. My name's Elizabeth, and I'm coming to you from Southern Indiana, and this is a podcast about knitting, spinning, now some crochet, hand dyeing, machine knitting, and some of the farm interesting things that we get up to. So, if you're a new viewer, thanks a lot for tuning in, and if you're a returning viewer, thanks a lot for waiting forever for me to come back. Haven't podcasted since I think November-ish. I got involved with a lot of Christmas events, and it just became a lot of chaos, and I began watching Vlogmases from other podcasters, and I just got out of the swing of doing the podcast, so hopefully I'm coming back now. We shall see. I'm going to try to do bi-weekly, like every 2 weeks. Just kind of depends on if I have a whole lot of content. This episode may be a little bit longer than normal because obviously in a month and a half I've done a few things. So sit back, relax, and hopefully you enjoy the show. If you need to contact me, everything that you need to know about the show is just down below in the show notes in the down bar. And I am Spotted Circus on Ravelry, Instagram, Facebook, and pretty much everywhere else. So feel free to get a hold of me if you have any questions. So, first up, I'm drinking some tea today. It's in a Starbucks mug, even though I'm not a huge Starbucks fan. However, it is Bird and Blend Mojitea. And it's supposed to be like a mojito. It's green tea, peppermint, and lime. It's pretty tasty so far. I'm liking it. During Vlogmas, I really watched Hannah from the Corner of Craft quite heavily, and she's a huge tea drinker, and I've fallen down the tea rabbit hole. I have a pretty good sized tea collection right now. In theory, it could be worse. I mean, the tea goes in your mouth and then it comes out, so it doesn't just stick around forever. But I've definitely become quite the teaaholic recently, so hopefully I'll have new teas for you on each podcast. But so far, I'm really liking it. It's got some nice mintiness to it. And definitely got a lime, kind of like a mojito, minus the alcohol, obviously. But the peppermint's kind of nice because I've had a bit of a cold. And so, you can see, there's all sorts of lime pieces in there. There's lime leaves, there's lemongrass, and then there's some green tea in there. So far, I really like it. Good job, Bird and Blend. So, works in progress. I've got one real thing that I'm actually working on, and another thing that I'm probably going to cast on today. So, my first thing that I am working on is the Snow Fuzz Hat by Emily O'Brien. And as you can see, it's kind of a slouchy hat. There's actually a very subtle pattern to it, but it doesn't show up super well. This is a new pattern that she's very recently released, and I'm using two of my yarns because I'm going to be using it as a shop sample. So, over here, I have brushed alpaca and mulberry silk in the colorway Rhubarb, and then this is alpaca sock, which is a new base for me, and it is alpaca, merino, and nylon in a fingering weight, and it's also in Rhubarb. So you hold the two of them together on size 5 needles, and you get this. So you get this really nice fuzzy halo to the yarn, and in there is a pretty subtle pattern that's happening. It's just knits and pearls, so it's a pretty easy pattern, but it's extremely soft. This is the same type of a combination that I used for my Love Note sweater, so lightweight, and it's going pretty quickly. But so far, I did this weekend. I was at a knitting kind of group thing with some friends that were local to the area. So I did all this while watching a couple of movies. I really hate 1x1 rib, can I just say that? It's tedious to do 1x1 rib. I get that it looks nice, but God, it takes forever. So, one of my works in progress currently. So that's going pretty well. Oh, excuse me, like I said, I've got a little bit of a cold starting. The other pattern that I'm going to be casting on this afternoon is a very vintage pattern. Leslie from the Knit Girls brought up this pattern on their podcast this week. And I was like, oh my god, I so need to make that. And it is the kitty couch green sofa. So this is a pattern from 1998. It's a whole $1.99, so it's super cheap. And it's designed by Clayton. And it's going to end up making a couch that's about 18 inches wide by 12 inches deep by 12 inches tall. And I have seen posts where, at least on, this came off Ravelry, the pattern, people have pictures of their cats, and some people have even crocheted remote controls for their cats. So I'm going to make a kitty couch. So I'm going to call it the kitty couch crochet along. And yes, this is crochet, it's not knit. And then it even has the pattern for the little bitty blanket on it. Pattern, we shall see how the pattern goes. I've taken up more crocheting recently because there was a pattern that I wanted to make. And it was only in crochet, so I kind of had to break out some crochet skills. But we're going to be doing it in this 70s-tastic Red Heart Super Saver with the colorway Woodsy. That's what color my husband wanted for the cat. So the cat is going to get this stunning 70s looking couch. They had a velvet yarn at Joann's when I went to go buy this, and I was really tempted to have a crushed velvet sofa, but it wasn't a worsted, it was a bulky, so I wasn't 100% sure about upsizing because I don't know quite as much so far about crochet. So the kitty couch is on the horizon. This woman who designed this pattern is probably wondering why all of a sudden this week she's had like a multitude of sales. She has the green sofa, then I think there's a blue sofa that doesn't have couch cushions, and then there's also a round sofa. And they are all a part of a pamphlet called Kitty Couches. So the kitty couch green sofa is in our future. So next up, let's see, finished objects. So I have quite a few finished objects because imagine this, I've been knitting a bit. The very first one is a test knit that I did, and it is for the White Owl Crochet Company, and it's almost 100% done, but it's the Honey Tea is what it's called. You can see I still have ends that need to be woven in. I knit this out of Spotted Circus Superwash sock in the Oilslick colorway, and it's one of my reverse speckle colorways. You can see there's just blips of color here and there with some black and some white. And I have I changed out the bind off for the sleeves because I was having issues with one sleeve being a bit too tight and the other one rolling. And I'm still having an issue with the bottom hem rolling. I haven't really hardcore blocked it out to see if I can change that. I did a sewn bind off on the end, and I think that's what's kind of causing it to flip up. So I need to pick up the bottom end and redo that. But let me see if I can try it on over this t-shirt and give you an idea for it. So the pattern will be released at some point this month in January. And it's a fingering weight sweater. I did not get gauged correctly when I first tried, so I had to go down to a US size 2. So let me see if I can back up a little. So you can kind of see how it fits. It's kind of like a fitted t-shirt. I made mine a mid-length, so midway between what she said and what the pattern called for. And it's got little bound off sleeves. So that is my sweater. The deadline for this test knit was January 5th, and on January 2nd is when I finally finished the yoke. And my gauge was off row-wise. I was getting 11.5 rows per inch instead of the 9 that I was supposed to be getting, I think. And I knew there was no way I could knit the whole body in the amount of time needed. So after the armpits here, that's all machine knit. What I did was I had just enough needles, because I think I was at roughly 400 stitches around it, and my knitting machine can do 200. So I knit this whole bottom section on the knitting machine. So there's what a knitting machine stitch looks like. Very, very even tension versus up in here, where you can see the tension's not quite the same. So I ended up losing 2 stitches because as a result I then had to seam the front and the back together. So you can see there's a seam. it's going to be underneath my side, and this yarn's so variegated in reality, I don't know that it makes a huge difference, but there you can see I seamed it. So the pattern obviously does not call for that. However, I had to do 400 stitches, and I did, I think, 130 rows in a day. So, times 2, because I did a front and a back. So, that improved my speed by quite a bit. So, I still need to block it, but the pattern's going to be coming out at some point here in January, and I recommend it. The size goes up to, I think, a 70-inch, which is huge for a designer. It's very, very size inclusive, and I did test the pattern as written, and there were a few modifications made in it to fix a neckline that was too wide, and just a few other little measurements. So I have the notes on my project page, and I recommend it. So this will become a shop sample for me, and I will hopefully be dyeing up some of this color here in the next week and a half, maybe 2 weeks at the most. So that way, if people are interested, they can do a White Owl honey tea as well. So that's the honey tea by White Owl Crochet Company, knit out of Spotted Circus Superwash sock in the Oilslick colorway. And one side has a few more white freckles than what the other one does. That's just the way it goes. You know, I alternated skeins up in the top, and I did not on the bottom. However, I had a skein that had a few more white flecks than the other one did. That's alright. So that's the first thing that's done. Thing number 2 that's done. And this I just finished this past week also. And this is my Meraki Tank by Sara Gresbach out Berroco Remix Light in the colorways Strawberry and Buttercup. So, here's my Meraki Tank. And I've still... It asks for you to pick up out around this neckline and then make a little loop, so that way I have a keyhole right here. I tried to start picking it up, and it stretched out the outer edge stitches, and I didn't like the way that looked. So I'm gonna modify it somehow, just don't know how yet. And here is the back. So when last we left off, I think I was down here-ish. So I've done the lace work up top. I've also got to figure out how I'm going to attach these sleeves, if I'm just going to seam them straight down or not. I need to actually just probably put in some stitch markers along here and then try it on as is. So otherwise, I'm calling it a finished object because it's pretty much about done. You know, there's really not a lot left to it. So that's my Meraki Tank. There we go. Pattern was good. It was actually, the pattern was written to be a shell, so you wouldn't have had these extra sleeves over here. And the yarn's really nice. It's nice and soft. So I've got to get a button at some point and block it still. But garment number 2 of 2020 done. Alright, item number 3. So I went on a bit of a crocheting kick. And I only went on the crocheting kit because we started to watch The Mandalorian, which was on Disney Plus, and we got that for free because we're Verizon customers. So we started watching The Mandalorian, and if you don't know about The Mandalorian, I don't know where you've been missing on social media, but Baby Yoda is in The Mandalorian. And I'm pretty sure you can see my friend in the back there. So, I created... Technically, he's called the child, but Baby Yoda, if his ears will stand up. Look at his sad, sad face. He looks very worried and confused. He's got on a little coat with a little handmade button, clear down to here, and then he even has little bitty butt cheeks. So, this pattern, prior to making the baby here, the amount of my crocheting was I have a granny square blanket that I'm working on, and that's about it. I've made one Anamaguri that was Lorenzo the llama, and he didn't turn out so great. Lorenzo looked like he had rickets and a vitamin D deficiency, and he was kind of cockeyed, but I made it at least. When So this pattern is by Allison Hoffman of Crafty is Cool, and she's known for doing all sorts of really interesting animaguri crochets. She has patterns for the Golden Girls, one of Post Malone, all sorts of interesting creatures. So she released this pattern, I want to say after the second or third episode of The Mandalorian came out and showed the baby. And she designed this pattern completely. I will tell you right now, the pattern's no longer available unless you're a shady person and you get it for free from somebody else who is shady. She put up the pattern, and then she put the test Yoda that she created up on eBay. And the bidding on that baby got up over $2,500, at which point Disney sent her a cease and desist and said, you cannot sell images of, or things with images of our likeness of our creatures. So the pattern got pulled, and people had a cow. I got really lucky. I bought the pattern about 12 hours before it was taken down off of Etsy and Ravelry. After that, people just flipped out. They were pissed that the pattern was gone, and they were mad that the designer didn't have it up anymore for sale, but she couldn't because Disney told her she couldn't sell things that resembled characters in their universe. And that started off people sharing the pattern for free, which isn't right. It was a paid-for pattern. I paid for it when I got it. And it was a very well-written pattern, in my opinion. But people decided that since she could no longer sell it, that it should be free. So there's been people that have posted it up online. There have been people who have basically knit their own in a slightly different color and then posted those instructions online. It turned into quite the fiasco for crocheting everywhere. So mine is an authentic Baby Yoda. I used the exact same yarns that she did. This is Buttercream Luxe, and it's a acrylic and alpaca. You can see the hairs from the alpaca sticking out. It's not the nicest alpaca in the world, I'll be honest, but, you know, I wanted to make it an authentic baby. This is Bernat Blanket in Almond, and this is Bernat Pipsqueek in Chocolate. And all these yarns are extremely hard to find now because everybody went crazy wanting to make Baby Yoda. So he's got little fingers, he's got little toes you can kind of see. This was interesting to make. He's a little over 2 pounds, and he stands, I think it's about 22, 23 inches tall. This is actually blush on his ears that you then spray with some hairspray to get to stick. His ears are a little wonky, but you can see I've sculpted his face, so like he's got a brow ridge there, and his nose is drawn in a little bit. His eyes are buttons because my Chinese safety eyes did not come in, because there was also a mad rush on safety eyes when the pattern came out. And I ordered mine, I think, right after Thanksgiving, and they didn't arrive until December 27th. So, very slow boat from China. So, this is my new friend, Mr. Yoda. I did attempt to take him to a craft market, and while people wanted to take pictures with him, people did not necessarily value the time that went into it. Materials alone, you're looking at $40 to $50 probably in yarn, not to mention the time to actually make it. He took me about 3 to 4 days because I'm not a super fast crocheter by any means. I'm not a professional crocheter. But some people on eBay now are selling them for like $35. And let's get real, your time is worth way more than $35. And so the market on Baby Yoda has kind of crashed. So currently I have Baby Yoda 1 and Baby Yoda 2. And they're kind of just hanging out on my couch with me. This definitely gives you a good size comparison as to how big they are. So, yeah, they're cute little dudes. Right now, they're just kind of hanging out on our couch until I decide where Baby Yoda's going to go next with me. So let me prop him up. So for now, he'll just be the podcast observer. So that was a pretty big project to make those, because boy, I'm not a crocheter, but I can be one if I have to be. That's also kind of what prompted me to think I can make a kitty couch. If I can make Baby Yoda, I can make a couch for a cat. And in reality, I don't think the cat's going to care what the couch looks like. So, another finished object. I did some work on a hide recently. This is the Crea that we lost May, I think it was. It was measles Crea that we lost. And I finally got around to tanning the hide. So, you can see it's actually got a ton of little bitty spots all over in it. Super soft. I'm still working on the back, on the leather. It's pretty pliable right here, but it's to the point where it's very, very thin, so I'm punching holes in it, which I'm not really wanting to do. I'm hoping it's going to be big enough to make something out of. Like maybe a teddy bear or something. I've got to look up some patterns for stuffed bears and see just how much size-wise I could fit as far as like a pattern cutting out pieces and stuff. So it's really pretty though. It's got really pretty spots all over the neck, and then there's spots on the belly. No spots on the tail, but it's just kind of dirty. But the bottom's got spots. So we're going to breed her again. I'll take her out in May when I go out to Colorado, and she'll breed again. And hopefully we'll have another spotty baby, because that was the goal. This was, oh look, we got a spotty just like we wanted. And then 3 days later we're like, oh look, now we don't have a spotty. Sucks, but nice memory piece. Uber soft. I've got to protect it from the critters because I find the cats laying on it and the dogs trying to steal it. So I think that's the majority of the finished knitted things. So onto machine knitting. In the middle of all my production for these craft fairs, my Passap E6000, which is my electric machine, went down. It started doing whatever it wanted to on its own patterning, and then the display started flashing crazy numbers. So looking at the machine, I was pretty positive it was a battery that was inside of it. So I had a friend, luckily, that knows how to solder. So we opened up the computer part of it and replaced a battery. It's a little watch battery about yay big. $25 for a little tiny battery. However, the original battery, the installation date was 1990, I think August of 1998. So the battery was going on 20 years old. So we replaced the battery. Now it works perfect, which is nice. I really appreciate the fact that it still works. I made a ton of hats over the holiday time, and I'll show you a few of them. All these are up in my Etsy store currently. So, made some neon alpacas. I made some pattern that I call fireworks. Let's see. I have this rainbow brioche, so it's a double-sided brioche. It's also called two-color fisherman's rib on the Passap machine. Let's see, some more brioche hats. I did a couple of cowls. Here's another hat that I did on the machine. And it's a variation of a brioche rib. So this side looks like this. And then the underneath side looks like that. So I have a ton of hats right now in the store if you need to keep your head warm. I think, though, I am down to one of my mountain hats currently. So check it out. I did do a custom order for a farm, and they wanted 7 alpaca hats for all the kids. So I made 7 hats in a kid's size and sent those out. So they looked really cute when I got done, and all the girls had black with neon alpacas, and the boys had blue with green alpacas done. The other thing that I made was I saw an ad for this thing. I think it was called a sweater shrug. And I was like, oh, just looking at the pattern, I'm like, that could be really handy. It's a scarf, but it's also a sweater shrug. So I made one, just kind of looking at the pattern and thinking about how it should go. I used some very precious to me acrylic because they don't make it anymore. And this acrylic is called Magicolor. It was Dennis Brunton Yarns Magicolor, and I have like 2 cones of this, and I treasure it because it's awesome. You can see how it just naturally changes rainbow, and it's like a black acrylic with a rainbow ply. So it's this really long thing. It's like a wide scarf, but then at the end there's these sleeves, which is just a tighter tensioned ribbing that I then seamed up the back. And if I can remember how it goes on, let me think. I think it goes on like this, and then it comes around your neck like this. And then you put your other arm in. And then you gotta adjust it, obviously. The little Chinese ladies on their website made it look so much easier. But then you gotta kind of fluff it out a little. Work it down. So, see, it's like a shruggy sweater. So, you can see, it's like it's a scarf with arms, basically. Yeah, and then it goes across the back. They wear it all sorts of different ways. It can also just literally be a scarf, a really long scarf. Or it can just be like a shawl. So like you can wear it. Let's see what this looks like. I need to go back and rewatch the videos on how these ladies wore these, because they were very creative. Yeah, this doesn't work because now my arms are bare, but you get the idea. I also made it a little bit longer than what theirs was, so it makes a really nice, warm, snuggly thing, and it's pretty to look at. Long term, I may rip it out, just because I like the yarn, but we'll see. It's acrylic, you know, nothing fancy, can go in the washing machine. It's actually extremely soft. Slightly different colors from the two ends, which is interesting, but that's alright. So I made that as well. Spinning. I did some spinning while I've been gone. However, the yarn that I made sold at one of the shows I did. So more recently I spun this, and this is my Merino Firestar in the Oilslick colorway, and you can kind of see at the edge there. Underneath it is actually stained glass merino in the neon rainbow colorway. And what I'm going to do is pull this off as a ball and then two-ply it. So hopefully by the next podcast I'll have that done. Alright, future cast-ons. So, I finished 2 sweaters. Who am I? And, you know, I need to cast on another sweater. So, my current plan is to do this. This is the Luminosity sweater by Tanis Grey, and it's a pattern that was just released this week. It takes 11 mini skeins in that yoke, which that's a lot of mini skeins. Let me see if I can show you closer. So there's a closer up of what the yoke looks like. It's sized up to a 64 inch, which is good. I'll probably do the 51.5 inch. And my plan is to do it as a shop sample, because I feel like I need to have shop samples. And if I'm knitting a sweater, that I should make it something that I can use for both purposes. So my plan is to knit it probably out of Superwash sock again, and to have this be the background colorway. So this is my colorway Disco Lights, and it's a reverse speckle, a black with neon speckles throughout, and then to dye up 11 mini skeins in these neon colors and like a color transition, so that way it's like a black with all neons. Can you see I have a theme going on with my sweaters currently of black and rainbows and sometimes bright colors? So that's my plan. I don't have the yarn ready yet. I just got in a shipment of yarn this week, so I'm going to dye that up. If anybody would like to knit that along with me, I can dye you up a kit as well. The yardage isn't crazy, so for my size, it's going to take 1,350 yards of fingering weight, so that's 4, 8, 12. It's probably 4 skeins of fingering weight. And then this mini skein set, which is, just says 11 contrasting colors, labeled 1 through 11 for your convenience. That doesn't help me out at all. So I guess I'm going to do 20-gram mini skeins, because it says you'll need as little as 13 and as much as 60 yards of some of the other colors. More or less, depending upon your artistic choices. So I may cut the 11 colors down slightly, so that way... Hey, get out of that, kitten. Come here, you. Mothra has grown, as you can see. She's an absolute hellion. She has a runny eye. She's always had a runny eye for some reason. I can't figure out why. What are you doing? What are you doing? She says, I'm looking for yarn to get into. Kitty, kitty, kitty. Psst, psst. Look, you're on the TV, kitty. Kitty. As you can hear, she has a very loud purr, and she seems to think that about 4:30 in the morning is when she should stand by your head and purr. Are you going to go on about your merry little way, kitty? You'll get a kitty couch soon, don't you worry, cat. So where was I? So yeah, future cast-ons. I'm planning on casting on that sweater, I think. I'd had a few others that I also really like. In fact, another one of them is... It's a faded cardigan that White Owl Crochet Company did, and it's crochet in a worsted weight, and it's huge. It's a long-term project, probably, but I really do like it. Acquisitions, I've actually done really good. I haven't bought a lot of yarn in the last month and a half. Part of it is I was busy doing other things. However, Hannah from the Corner of Craft put together this 3-skein fade kit. And I saw it go up, and she had it for 30% off right after Christmas, so I stayed up at like 3 a.m., I think it was, and bought it. So this is Marrow, Ice Dragon Wormling, and Ice Mage. And they're all on her Merino sock, which is a Superwash Merino nylon base. And I thought they're really, really pretty together. I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet. It's roughly 1,290 yards. So I'm going to look for a pattern at some point and do it. But I really liked the way it was done. So check out Hannah from Chromatic Yarns. And she also has the Corner of Craft podcast over in the UK. So, upcoming events. You'll have to excuse me while I look down so that way I can remember all of them. So, there's not actually a ton super recently that's coming up. March 13th through the 15th is the National Alpaca Show up in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And there will be vendors, an alpaca show, alpaca selfies. I'm guessing alpaca yoga probably. I will be vending for sure and doing demos of machine knitting, spinning, working with your fiber basically. We may be taking one of the Krias up to show. I need to get blood pulled on him and get him actually registered. I think that our Kria that we call Sir Humps a lot is going to be named Spotted Circus Rocky Spot because he's out of Rocky Road and he has a spot. Really original name, I know, but with a mother's name of Dalliance, I couldn't figure out a way to combine Rocky Road Dalliance together. So, Rocky Spot, I think, is going to be his name. However, it's a week in January. He is not halter broke yet. We still need to do that. And we need to get his blood drawn and him registered. So, he'll either be going to that show or the weekend after. There's a show actually in Illinois, in Springfield, Illinois. And he may go to that one. So, we'll see. April 17th through the 18th is the Fiber event in Greencastle, Indiana. And that's my first big fiber festival of the year. I'm vending inside this year, which is really nice. I appreciate air conditioning and non-rain. After that, I've got a week in May where I'm shearing out in Colorado again and doing some sorting out there. And then June 5th through the 6th is the Hoosier Hills Fiber Festival in Franklin, Indiana. That's the same time as Estes Park, and I've pulled out of Estes Park because the costs have gotten to be ridiculous. Hoosier Hills is roughly an hour from my house, and Estes Park, of course, is 15 to 16 hours. The vending fee is almost half to go to Hoosier Hills versus Estes Park, and we won't even get into the hotels out in Estes, which are 120 to 160 a night. So financially, it makes more sense, unfortunately, to go to Hoosier Hills. And I loved going to Estes because it's so gorgeous out there, and I have a lot of friends out that way. But realistically, I should go to Hoosier Hills instead. So that's what we're doing. In a shop update, I have some skeins going into the shop. It's not reskeined yet, but this is actually the Disco Lights colorway. So this, but it's on my alpaca merino nylon sock base. And you can see I haven't reskeined it yet. So you can see how there's just little blips of color that travel in a rainbow. And because it's not a superwash, there's some areas that bleed in between. So like the yellow bled slightly into the blue, so you can see there's kind of a greenish cast to the black here. And there's a little blip of orange. They're not 100% perfect in comparison to what superwash sock will do, but it'll still give you the same effect. You know, it's going to be black with little blips of neon color. And that is how you reskein or twist a yarn. So all these will go back onto my Swift, and I will reskein those up. So there's going to be, I think, 6 skeins of this, possibly going into the shop. Otherwise in the shop, Merpak Yak Silk DK, Pat Cool Bulky, and a couple of other bulky yarns are on sale right now. They're yarn lines that I'm not going to be carrying in the future because they haven't sold as I had expected them to. So those are going to be going away. Other shop news. I'm going to stop carrying Angelina when I run out of Angelina. However, I have a lot of Angelina still. So I'm selling a lot of bulk Angelina. So if there are colors that you want in the 3+ ounce range, let me know, because I've got about 30 colors, I think it is, that I'm going to be selling off here pretty soon. And once the Angelina colors sell out, I'm done with Angelina. It's too much work to manage 40+ colors in 1/4 ounce packages and know 100% what it is you've got. So Angelina's going to go away. But otherwise, I think that's the majority of the shop update. Farm update. It's currently poop soup weather, which means it is rainy and in the 50s, and it rains so frequently that it's hard to clean up any kind of poop, so it becomes poop soup, which really sucks. The 50s are perfect parasite weather, unfortunately, as well, so we're having to really keep a close eye on the herd. If it would stop raining and actually freeze like it should be in January, it would be awesome. But it's definitely not doing that right now. We had Ramses the ram in with the 2 girls, and hopefully they're bred for roughly May 1st lambs. So we'll find out beginning of May whether or not we have babies coming. Hopefully we do, because he was enthusiastic about his job. And the other big news is we have 189 bales of hay showing up Sunday that we've got to unload and stack at 50 pounds a piece. So let's see. 159 bales times, or no, 189 bales. Ugh. All right, let's see how much weight this is going to be. 189 bales times, let's say that they're 45 pounds, being generous. So that's 8,500 pounds of hay that my husband and I are going to lift. So between the 2 of us, 4,000 pounds a piece, so 2 tons of hay a piece, is what we're going to unload on Sunday and stack up in the garage. And let me tell you how excited I am to do that. However, it's hay that's at a good price, and it's hay that's been tested. And this year, that's been really hard to find. There's been a lot of extremely overpriced hay that doesn't have a very good nutritive quality to it because of how wet that the spring was. So people are price gouging pretty badly right now. What I'd normally be paying $5 or $6 for maybe is now in the $8 to $10 range. So that really affects your bottom dollar when you're looking at feeding a herd. So I'm hoping that this 189 will get us close to hay cutting time because we're going through 1.5 to 2 bales a day, roughly right now. And in theory, we could probably go through more. So hopefully the hay arrives and it doesn't pour and it's beautiful and they like it. And he can hold on to a little bit more for us as an overage just to be safe. So I think that's about it for today that I can think of. My Mojitea is cold now, but it's still pretty good. And yep, that's all for this week, I think. So thanks a lot for sticking around. I know it's been a longer podcast, and thanks a lot for coming back since it has been a million years since I've podcasted. Sorry that I took so long off. I've been got a lot of headaches recently, and I had to get some new glasses. So you can see I've got new glasses here with some strange stripy stuff on the side. And my old glasses are really scratched up, and that's helped a bit, but I'm not 100% sure that it's fixed the problem. So in between my neck that needs to be cracked and I've got an eye doctor appointment next week, hopefully we'll get these headaches straightened out, because you just feel kind of miserable when you've got a headache. So that's it for this week. And oh, no, it's not. I have a giveaway. Totally forgot about this till the very last minute because I didn't put it in my show notes. So when I was out at SAF, I ran into my friends from Latin Collection, and they are a company out of North Carolina that makes alpaca socks. And they gave me a pair of their My Survivor socks, and they're a dress sock made with alpaca, acrylic, nylon, and spandex. So these will fit a size 6 to 10 shoe in women's. And I would like to give these away to somebody, because I have actually quite a few pairs of their socks and I really, really like them. So to be entered in the giveaway, leave a comment down below in the YouTube comments area as far as what things would you maybe like to work on this year as far as knitting, crafting, anything like that. So next time I podcast, I will draw for a winner. So beautiful socks. Thank you very much, Latin Collection, for these amazing socks. And they support a good cause with breast cancer. So leave a comment below in the comments. Hit like and subscribe, please, as well. And I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye.